For those that just joined a second ago, my name is Greg Sterling of the Local Search Association. This is How Will the Digital Video Boom Impact Local? Video is an extremely hot topic right now, and we've got a terrific roster of folks to talk about different aspects of video advertising and video content today, especially as it pertains to the local market and local businesses. This webinar is going to be archived at the end of the week, probably by Thursday or Friday of this week, at LSA, thelsa.org, under webinars and webinars archive. So you can watch the entire rebroadcast there at your convenience. I know you'll want to watch it hundreds and hundreds of times in succession. Binge watch it again and again. So this is the group of speakers today: Cory Elliott from Burrell Associates, Michael Taylor of Thrive Analytics, which is also LSA's research partner, Mike Osborne of BIE Media, and I'm Greg Sterling. And I'm just serving today really as the MC. I'll be introducing and fielding questions at the end for these speakers, and they'll do the bulk of the presenting. Before we get into this, I just want to let you know that there's a conference, a dedicated conference coming up in Chicago, co-sponsored by Burrell, Local Media Association, Local Search Association, on this very topic, local video and the opportunity, featuring a Google keynote, discussion of Facebook video, video forecast, programmatic discussion, and a lot of practical advice and case studies from folks like Cox Media, ABC, Dominion, Denver Post, etc. So if you want more information on that, go to localmedia.org/videoconference, and that's coming up in Chicago in a couple of weeks. As a benefit to attendees, you'll get a free copy of the LSA's local online videos, Next Frontier, coming again. You'll get a free copy of the report, which is partly going to be presented today by Michael Taylor, which talks about a whole range of things. It's pretty comprehensive, a lot of great data in there. Attendees get a free copy. So with that, we're going to start to get into the content here, and I'm going to turn it over to Cory Elliott to talk about the value of this market and where Burrell Associates sees it going in the next several years. So Cory, welcome.
All right, thanks everybody, and thanks for having me on. Again, my name is Cory Elliott. I'm the Director of Research here at Burrell Associates. And what I want to go over today is where we see the money, where we see it heading, how much is out there, and a little bit about what some of our experts are saying and some of the research that we got back from a big SMB survey that we did that all points to this growing bubble of online video. So if you go to the next slide. So basically what we do, if you don't know about Burrell, we look and monitor advertising spend across the nation. We have a giant model, we build the model, we forecast, and we project numbers into local markets. And we're always paying attention to what's local and what's national. And the way we define it is local means anything bought by a local business to reach the people in that local area. So that's, somebody has to define local some way, so that's how we defined it. And right now, we know there's about $7.1 billion being spent on online video advertising in total by local businesses reaching the local community. That's not touching the $19 billion that are out there in all different forms, usually by big brands who are doing a lot of advertising or online video advertising across the nation or outside of their own local market. So 7.1, 2015, 19 for the total national number. But let's talk about that 7.1 billion a little bit more. Go to the next slide. This is what we see when we look at just that online video local number. And if we project out until 2019, we're actually going to hit $9 billion by about 2017. That's when it's just scraping over $9 billion, and peaking there in 2018. The model sees a slight dip, but I really wouldn't be worried about it in 2019. That's more of a course correction than anything else. But what we're seeing is a 23% increase from 2014 to 15 to this year, and then we project in the next 3 years a 31% increase on top of that. This is the second fastest growing segment of advertising that we see. The first is targeted, what we call targeted display, which really is anything anything that is online and targeted, meaning mobile, meaning social, all of that. You can imagine that is a huge bundle of money, and that because it's a huge area. But when you talk about a little bit more specific, when you go to online video, this is what we're seeing. If you go to the next slide, I'll show you some of the categories that are spending the most in online video, in local online video. The top 5, it shouldn't be too big of a shocker: auto dealers, general merchandise stores. Government, the way we've defined government is everything from the Postal Service to the military branches to local political organizations, things like that. Then real estate services and utilities. If we project out to 2019 and do the same thing and look at the top 5, they pretty much say the same. Utilities falls off a little bit to be replaced by pharmacies. Still a lot of money being spent out there. If you go to the next slide, this is, I thought it would be interesting to show you guys in terms of an online ad budget. And by online ad budget, I mean I can spend my money on paid search, on online video, on display, on online audio. Who is spending the majority, or what percentage of their online ad budget locally is dedicated to online video? So it's not their overall ad budget, it's what we project the online ad budget. So that's what you have on the left-hand side. And then on the right-hand side, movie theaters make sense because of the, the kind of native to video, if you were. And then you'll see that the percentages drop, but the money still increases, but the percentages drop as a mix. And again, it's because of the targeted display coming in and taking so much money. But these are still a lot of dollars and a lot of money being spent in online video advertising. In fact, if you go to the next slide, I'll show you some of the categories that the model's projecting are going to increase the most in online video from 2015 to 2019. Now, these could be small bases. There might not be a lot of money in any one of these, but these are the guys that are really, we're projecting to increase their online video budgets. You see building contractors, they're over on the left. Auto dealers still really hefty, so they're spending a lot of money and increasing quite a bit. You'll see a lot of kind of healthcare, medical doctors, other medical professionals, if you want to throw pharmacies inside of there as well. And then auto-related, auto usually pulls in auto-related categories as well, too. We also wanted to, oh, thank you, you did that, I just thought it. We also wanted to show you a slide that we had about, that talks about programmatic, how much of this we project being sold programmatically as opposed to a direct buy. And you can see the crossover we expect to happen about 2017. And this is both local and national, I should say. That we see that crossover happening so that by 2020, about 2/3 of the online video advertising will be bought programmatically. We're seeing a lot of parallels between what is happening now and what newspapers experienced when they were upselling digital, when they thought they could just, or thought it would be a good idea to give away digital. We see a lot of people who do offer online video advertising kind of giving it away. And we think that's, or at least programmatic, I should say, giving away programmatic, and we think that's going to overtake just like it did with newspapers. if you go to the next slide, I'm trying to get through these because there's other people who need to talk. Here, I want to also bring up the fact that online video advertising is one thing, but you got to make the videos too. And we have we look at digital services as well here at Burrell, and we modeled that out as well. And what you're seeing here is the money associated with online video production by DMA. And I just chose the top 10 there to show you the amount of money that's being spent. And this is, again, not advertising, this is production of online video. Of course, the big guys are the big guys. In fact, they go along quite well with the size of the market if you look top to bottom. And I thought it was kind of fun, too. We can cut the data to look at per DMA what percentage of the overall digital services, and we divided out to about 15 different digital services, is spent on online video production. Again, lower amount of dollars being spent, but just interesting that some of these areas or some of these DMAs pop up in terms of the percentage spent on online video production, and mainly that is a function of the business makeup that they have in their individual markets. So there's a lot of different ways to look at the data, and if, in fact, if you click to the next one,
Cory, let me stop you for a second, Cory. This is Greg. I'm not going to interrupt the speakers like this. I'm just doing this right now because somebody popped up with a question looking for a definition of programmatic, and I thought rather than wait till the end, it would be good just to have you address that right now. And sorry for the interruption, but if you could just give a quick definition of programmatic, and then you can keep going.
Sure. The way we've defined it here, or for our purposes, programmatic is anything that's I call it machine bought, that is not directly placed, that is somebody who has an online ad and wants to automatically hit, who bids and gets their message out to a specific audience, a specific targeted audience, whether it's a geographic or demographic or behavioral. Then it's automatically placed rather than bought through somebody. It's bought through a network. Okay, so our model that you see all these numbers come from, they rely on a lot of different inputs for the estimates and projections, but I wanted to show you, everybody kind of set the tone of what other people are talking about on the future of online video advertising. So if you go to the next slide, we run an expert panel, we call it. We have about 300 professionals in media. They're also in academia. There's some journalists in there. And every quarter we give them statements, and we have them through a Delphi method give us back their reactions as to the probability of something happening and the time frame in which it will happen. So what you have here are 3 of the most recent statements that we put out that have something to do with video advertising or online video. And I wanted to show you what people are saying and what the probability is. And you got to remember that this group, to get a 49, a 50, or a 60% probability rate from this group means it's probably going to happen because it's an average score you're seeing here. I'm not going to read them all to you. You can all read, but I'll jump down to that bottom one, where we asked, or we had the statement, more than half of primetime television programming is watched via streaming on computers. Do you think that's going to happen? That was our highest probability. 60% of the panel said, yeah, it's going to happen. And we also, the time frame averaged out to sometime in late 2018. So the general consensus out there is that online video is coming on strong and here to stay. Next, I wanted to show you a couple of the reactions we got from our survey, our SMB survey, and these are the smaller of the SMBs. These are small guys. 74% have under 50 employees. Across the nation, we asked them several different questions, and I wanted to share the ones that had something to do with online video. What you're seeing here under every question is the 2, I put online video advertising or anything to do with online video in the middle and show you the 2 that scored a little bit higher and the 2 that scored a little bit lower than online video to give you some kind of perspective of what these SMBs are looking at. So on the left is which of the following online ad marketing efforts do you expect to spend money in 2015? So these are, again, the smaller of the SMBs. 11.6% are already saying online video advertising. And which of the digital services, remember we talked about production versus advertising, about the same amount, 10.5%, said they're going to spend on online video production. If you go to the next slide, we also ask, hey, if any of the following, we gave them a lot of different Google paid ad solutions, but one of them was video and YouTube ads. Have you used any of that in the last 12 months? 20% said they had. And which of the following mobile tactics have you used in your mobile campaigns? 15% of these guys have used mobile videos. And finally, I think finally, or no, that might be it. Okay, so before we go on, I just wanted to share that with you. Even though they seem like small numbers, I want you to realize that these guys are the smallest of the SMBs. These are the small guys, the mom and pop shops, and to get these kind of numbers is pretty telling on that level. So with that, I went a little over, but I'm going to be quiet now.
Yeah, no problem. We'll bring you. Thank you very much, Cory, and we'll bring you back for Q&A at the end. Before Michael Taylor from Thrive Analytics comes on to get a little bit deeper into the performance metrics and consumer demand, consumer engagement with video, I want to just remind folks, this is something I've tweeted out and blogged a little bit about. Sheryl Sandberg, Facebook COO, said on the earnings call this past last week that over 1 million small businesses had uploaded video to Facebook. So it really shows that already there's a very high level of engagement and awareness among business owners of video, and at least an intuitive understanding of its potential impact. So with that, I want to bring on Michael Taylor from Thrive Analytics to get a little bit deeper into some of this stuff.
Thanks, Greg. One of the things we look at, as you look at the numbers that Burrell is talking about, you see, quite dramatic growth happening in the online video space. When we look at particularly at the local space, we're trying to understand, well, what's driving it right now. And so we look at local market drivers, and we also look at the local market challenges. These are covered in great detail in the report that Greg mentioned at the beginning of the webinar. And we're going to dive into some of the things that are driving the local market into the video space. So next slide. First and foremost, we are now in the era of being connected consumers, where 60% of consumers are using mobile devices when they search for local information online. As SMBs are starting to see more and more of their traffic coming from the mobile phone, they're trying to find ways to capture that audience and to engage them. And so as social and mobile come together, so too video comes along with that. And as we see more and more local traffic shift from the desktop to the handset or tablet, video rises with all of those shifts. So next slide, please. And what the early adopters in local are seeing is that video is driving local sales. So when the secondary actions that come after the viewing are what's most important to a local player. Whereas a brand is really looking for that reach and awareness, the local consumer or SMB is doing what they always do. They want to make sure that they have people coming into their stores. So what the early adopters are seeing is that after viewing an online video, they're contacting the store either by phone or by email. They're going and visiting the website to find out more information about the product, the service, or the offer. They're visiting the store, and most importantly, they're seeing a high level of intent to purchase, whether they're purchasing within a few days or they're purchasing the same day after viewing a video ad. Those kinds of figures get local businesses excited, and as publishers are also seeing this, online publishers and local media outlets are seeing that kind of engagement and key secondary actions happening. You're seeing more and more media companies looking at the opportunity to adopt online video. Next slide, please. But what's really spurring this on is the access to technology and marketplaces that are emerging to drive the cost of video production down. if you think back even 5 years, the perception of video production was tied to television production. And most small businesses felt that video production was well out of their reach. And so they had no concept of how accessible video was to them, and without having access to video production, they had no concept of even purchasing online video advertising opportunities. But now you see the emergence of video marketplace platforms that are utilizing technology and this mass buying approach to drive down production costs, because they're able to bid and dictate pricing in exchange for delivering volume of videos. And the way these video marketplaces are doing that is they're introducing formula approaches. So there's a very specific way of how they shoot a video, what type of questions they're going to ask the small business owner to develop their story online, and there's very specific ways that's going to be edited, produced, and distributed. So that helps to really lower costs and makes video much more accessible and affordable. And as the early adopters have come through and have done the production, they're seeing the value of what video delivers to them. Now there's this ability to sell additional formats or content approaches to video, whether they're simple how-to videos or explainer videos, or if you have an e-commerce site, sometimes they're producing product videos, and they're seeing great uptake rate of consumers who are watching video product ads and then higher purchase rates on their sites. So that's also driving a lot of this early adoption and early spend, and as more people become aware of the availability and affordability, we think that that's going to support the growth figures that we saw earlier that Cory presented to us. Next slide, please. However, the thing that's really becoming a roadblock at this point is the education part. We talked about SMBs needing to understand if there's affordability, but beyond that, they also need to understand what's the application of a video to their local marketing plans. How does adding video increase visibility? How does it increase engagement with my customer? How does it fit in with all this other media I'm buying? Oftentimes they buy in media individually and they don't know how it all fits together. So that's where the sales force comes in. Sales teams also need to be educated not only on the value that video itself delivers, but how does video in combination with simple things like your website or an enhanced listing on a directory site or a video display ad, how is that going to support, or how am I going to marry up video with some of the things I'm doing on the social media marketing or content marketing side. So it's up to the sales teams to get educated not only in video, but how does that all fit together, or come to them with solutions of saying, here's how you can further extend your campaigns by adding video in these places that make it smart for you to drive customers or calls or clicks or whatever is most important to that small business advertiser. So that also now rolls into what product planners are doing at media companies. They need to look broader than the video itself into how can video help me to sell a broader set of products. And that's where bundling and sales and marketing strategy will come in on video. One of the things we talk about is not having a video that's a one and done type item. It's encourage them to get started with video and then continue to show them the value chain down to producing how-to videos, or marrying up video with content marketing, or if they have an e-commerce site, doing product videos. Next slide, please. We talked about programmatic and real-time bidding, and these are the large platforms that enable advertisers to purchase video advertising either by demographics or by audience types, time of day, a number of different variations, but it automates the process. One problem in the local space is that a lot of the local inventory hasn't been turned over to these programmatic platforms because they've been primarily built for large brands and large advertisers who have different goals and initiatives when it comes to their video advertising. Where a video campaign from a brand might be focused on more the top of the funnel, more the awareness and reach of the audience, whereas a local advertiser has a different view of what types of video inventory that they're buying. They're more interested in specific types of audience that match their current buyers or allows them to reach audiences that they haven't been able to reach with other advertising. So you have this need for prime inventory that the local media companies haven't really put into the programmatic to sell to local. So you still have a lot of local video inventory being sold direct from media companies to local advertisers. But that's quickly changing, and there are platforms that are beginning to emerge, platform like Sightly, for instance, that's really focused on the local and trying to help local publishers and local advertisers kind of crack that nut to be able to see audiences, to see how bidding happens, to see performance based on the placement of their advertising. And once that changes of content's available, but now there are easy ways to buy and place that content, once those two pieces of the puzzle come together, we think the growth that we've seen might actually increase faster than what might be projected. Next slide, please. The other part that's holding back small business advertisers, and to a certain extent as we talk to major brands who look at the local market, is there's a confusing mix of metrics and pricing and distribution just from the national level, and then when you get down to the local level, it becomes even more confusing because you're dealing with small, medium-sized businesses that may not be as sophisticated as a media buying company or an agency. So right now there's a very wide variation in how video is measured, again because of that national lens on how these platforms were created. So are you looking at click-through rates? Are you looking at viewability? Are you looking at conversions or reach or frequency? And do those translate into the local market? There's also a lack of visibility in what sites provide the best local conversion rates. So is it okay for me to have my video placed on my enhanced listing on a directory site or a newspaper site and then have it pushed out to YouTube, and is that enough? Or are there other local opportunities for me to push out my video content that allows me to reach a broader audience than maybe the local newspaper might reach or the local cable station might reach? And then there's a lot of lack of consistency in the pricing models and formats between local video outlets. There are broadcast formats, there are formats that are utilized on cable television, there are mobile formats, there's online formats, there's online apps that have very different formats, and that's very confusing for a local advertiser and for a publisher who's looking to push that video into multiple platforms. And so once more consistency happens, particularly on the local level, that's going to help the growth rate, but it also provides an opportunity for local media outlets to streamline once you produce a video that it can flow naturally into multiple types of channels that they're controlling where video can be applied. Next slide, please. So what really is a local opportunity? Well, publishers and local media outlets have the opportunity to create this two-tier system of premium inventory. There's premium inventory that's directed towards national advertisers who are trying to reach local audiences, and there's premium inventory that is more attractive to a small and medium-sized business who is really looking further down in the funnel engagement into actual purchase, and there'll be we see a two-tier premium inventory emerging, or players who are very specific to providing that local focus for buying. We think the appetite for online video among SMBs will continue to create growth for local media outlets, both on the content development side, which also includes hosting, which creates an ongoing renewable revenue source, but also on the buy side, not only placing on their own platforms, but placing media on behalf of small businesses into these very specific local audiences that they can aggregate to extend that. So it gives publishers and online media companies opportunity to earn it on both sides of the transaction, developing and placing. And as we talked about earlier, mobile is going to be that significant driver of how online video is going to grow in the local space, where you have more small businesses focused on social media and content marketing. Video fits naturally into that, and as mobile and local search grow, those things will all be tied together. So really the fate of online video in the local space will be very tightly tied to the mobile handset. And as we talked about being connected, 60% currently is where mobile is drawing local searches for SMBs, but that will continue to grow over the next 12 to 24 months. And again, that's a further driver for online video growth. So at this point, we're going to turn it over to Mike Osborne from Media to get more of a ground level view on what he's seeing from a platform standpoint in the local online video space.
Mike has some terrific stuff to talk about regarding execution and on-the-ground information, and then we're going to get into your questions. So, Mike, go ahead.
So I'm going to talk about things from a video production perspective, as that's what we do and our experiences. And in listening to both Cory and Michael, our experiences, obviously, as you would expect, are in line with what they're seeing. And I'm going to talk a bit about the drivers at the local level that we're seeing, kind of why it's important to incorporate video from a few different angles. Chat a bit about the challenges and the obstacles, roadblocks that you have in trying to get local to be engaged with video, back to the whole education side of it, things of that nature. And then a few observations around what to look for as you're going down the path of launching a potential video production strategy, as well as some kind of successes and experiences that we've had at that level. Next slide, please. So with the drivers, the improve SEO, Michael spent a bit of time talking about kind of what some of those pieces of the drivers were. It's kind of what's it mean to improve it, why is it valuable. I'm going to talk a bit about digital strategy when you're starting a video marketing program, because as was mentioned a couple of times in the prior presentations, the biggest thing is, you really need to understand kind of what you are trying to Michael's point, to measure, right? Is it click-through rate? Is it views? What is the behavior you're trying to get to help build that strategy to help educate the sales folks? And then a bit on consumer behavior. Next slide, please. So again, the standard things with improving SEO, it's all about being seen. At the end of the day, all of these are about being seen. Everyone talks about rankings, but the biggest thing is, are you landing first page? Are the searches successful to get eyeballs on it to then have a consumer act on your business? And then obviously the longer somebody stays, the higher click-through rates, the longer somebody stays and explores the website and the content, the more likely they are to act on some piece of that. Next slide, please. So then with the video marketing side of it, the big things to think about here is to truly set a strategy in advance, understanding that can change. It can morph over time. What you may believe to be kind of how you need to come out with a particular product suite may not necessarily last long, in which case you just make the adjustment. But the biggest thing is making sure that the video partner that you choose, the production process you choose, has the ability to adjust with that, because you really need to understand within the audience, what audience are you trying to get? Are you trying to get that audience that's looking for a how-to type of video, and you're going to drive them with that type of content and behavior? Is it purely a product play and a demo play? Is it entertaining? Is it going to be some type of animation where you're trying to get your point across in a more entertaining manner? And how are you going to then present that? What's the technique? Is it going to be more of a testimonial where you have people talking about a product or service? Is it going to be a profile? So kind of setting the stage at least at a product level within your organizations as to how that video marketing needs to look. It's really important to have that understanding, and again, it can change over time, but you really need to make sure that you're developing that in advance of rolling out products, because rolling out the products isn't the challenging part. It's that education of the sales force, of the group that's trying to go out and make sure that the local business group understands what this is all about. Next slide, please. So the consumer behavior side of this, Michael touched on many of these. We use very complementary kind of behaviors, but again, it's about being seen, and with the stats you're seeing on this page, it's 50 times more likely to be on a first page. The one that's not on here is the one where I think the last time I saw Google come out, it was somewhere around 75% of people don't ever get to a second page. So if you're 50 times more likely to land on a first page and no one's going to the second page, it becomes even more important to get your messaging there. Next slide. Again, a little more on that. It's about how long people stay on average. It's about, this is one, Michael talked about the percentage increase of people acting on after getting a video, either going into the store or making a product purchase. A complementary statistic is the one from MediaPost, where over half of consumers say a product video gives them the confidence and makes it less likely to return the product. So you've got them more likely to go in and act upon it and less likely to return the product. So for a local service provider, it's really important you're not dealing with kind of inventory reuse, as it were. Next slide, please. So on the challenges, it is about product understanding, and with that I mean, the educational side of things. Again, Michael did touch on this in the larger view from the report, which is absolutely spot on, but the education is both internal and with local businesses. It's our experience that making sure that the sales staff, media consultants, have a good, clear, crisp understanding of what that digital strategy is, how does it assist the business, the local business they're selling to, and how does it fit in the overall product strategy, whether it's bundled or a standalone. And then on the distribution side, what's kind of the best bang for the buck? Again, getting back to that, some of the earlier discussions about, do I just do YouTube? Do I just do premium placement on my local directory service? And then how do I show that value to the customer? So these are the things that within the challenges that we try to kind of address and help clients work through. So next slide. So on the product understanding piece, it truly is a what video is best for me, and this gets back into that, having that digital strategy and understanding up front what we think we're trying to accomplish, right? It's that you don't, the one and done comment that Michael made is spot on. You have people who engage in video and they think, oh great, I've gotten a video, and they get the uptick in SEO and it seems like it's helping, and then 6 months, 9 months, a year from now, it doesn't seem to be as effective, and a lot of that is around what's the strategy with it, how many other videos can I play in this, is it seasonality, things of that nature, okay? And then really working with the customers to understand, what's this offering going to look like? Is it standalone? Do I bundle a base service and have them have the option to upsell to other services? This gets into, again, that education and product understanding for the sales force. And probably the most important one on here is truly setting expectations with the customers. Because one of the biggest challenges with where we've gotten with video production, and the fact that it's no longer elusive to the small business, they can afford to get into the fray and be part of the program. But now you kind of have the reverse side of it, which some people will say, well, then if it's that inexpensive, it can't be good. So setting expectations that it's, that you're not having Spielberg shoot something, but it's also not, kind of made at home. So there's a lot of work to do from an examples perspective, and laying the groundwork on what the value is, even though the cost isn't significant. Next slide, please. And then on the distribution side, on the distribution side, where should this go? Website, YouTube, social media. Our big three areas right now that we do distribution to is the company's website, YouTube, and Facebook. Back to the comment about where Facebook's seeing video go. Believe it or not, the fourth one kind of coming up fast is Twitter. The more and more people realize that with 140 characters versus a video and kind of the lengths and styles of the videos, Twitter. So it's really the question of where should the video go is one that is a moving target. That target moves probably quarterly to semi-annually for us as far as where the appropriate spots are. But again, that's an area where when you're measuring success, when you're setting what that success looks like, whether it's views, whether it's traffic, click-through rates, whatever the kind of strategy says that measurement is, having the flexibility to adjust where those videos are presented is just as important. Now, I will say that I don't see YouTube leaving that group anytime soon. They're the #2 search engine on the planet now, and the #1 search engine owns the #2 search engine. So it's going to be, YouTube's always going to be there. You're going to have things like Twitter and Facebook and websites, and there may be some regional directories that end up being distribution sites. But that's all the strategy work that you should be working with your vendor partner and making sure you're targeting appropriately. Next slide, please. So then on production value, the question of how the industry's evolved with video, it gets back to, it's mostly a cost thing. It truly has evolved down from where it took, TV production level costs in order to produce even a 30-second spot, down to where we've, with technology, both production services as well as, what individual companies like mine have built internally to make the flow work really well and be able to do the volumes. The industry has evolved to where producing really high-end video is very cost effective. And then ensuring quality and consistent work is probably one of the big things that, as you're trying to determine how to do the video production, who's your partner going to look like or be, is one of the most important things. There's a complete wide range of ways that companies in my field do this. Some outsource to individual videographers. We do it all in-house so that we can always make sure everything looks and feels the same. But you've got to, at the end of the day, the biggest thing in making sure is that as you do more and more videos, that there's consistency to it, that your overall kind of vibe and feel is the same. And then as far as communicating and showing the customer value, again, that goes back to the strategy you're attacking with, and making sure that you understand what it is your customers' drivers are. Is it how many people came into the store after watching that video? Is it how many people didn't return the product? Is it how many people clicked on my Facebook page? So showing that value really is getting an understanding from the sales folks and account management people, understanding of exactly what behavior is needed there. And then setting and explaining pricing. Again, it really goes back to the big couple of themes for me in this, and I want to strongly communicate, is having a strategy and making sure that the sales force that's going out there, be it online or the individuals, understands exactly what it is they're trying to accomplish. Because if they don't fully understand it and understand what the pricing is versus the value and the strategy, then you're just not going to be successful. It's our experience, you'd be successful in rolling out a product from a video perspective. Next slide, please. So on to the observations and successes. You know, I'm gonna quickly talk about what you should look for in someone doing video production work for you. We've touched on a few of the things, and then some examples of what does success look like, some things that we've experienced, feedback we've gotten at the customer level. So next slide. So the biggest thing with looking at a video partner, frankly, is, you know, do they support all of your needs? You know, if you've got a robust sales group that needs good training, what kind of support does the video partner give you? How long have they been doing this? Can they do volume to custom? Where do you fit into that range? Are you trying to do large volumes of the same type of video? Is it one-off custom production? You know, what's their product offering? Is it wide-ranging enough to meet with your needs if you want to go from full shoot to animation to the other kind of technology types I mentioned earlier? And then from a technology perspective, how easy is it to order, right? It's all about, frankly, video production partners should take 90% of the heavy lifting off of any service you're trying to do. They should be able to support and train your sales staff. They should have an easy, whether it's an API or whether it's an online order form that's very straightforward to integrate and use. And they should have production software that does these things in a timely manner. One of the biggest kind of intersection points is cost versus time. You don't want a video to take 20 days to get built. The customer will lose interest. So you want to land that in the kind of 3 to 8 day business range whenever possible. So that's kind of from a video partner perspective. It's just what fits best with what you're trying to accomplish and what experiences do they have in doing it. So if we can click to my last slide, the success slide. So the big thing is you need a partner, not a vendor. That's going to allow for open communications. If you have issues, if you need help, you've got to be able to go to that. And it gets back into the flexibility side of things as well. You've got to be able to change the ship whenever you're starting to understand some of these nuances. I mean, all of the numbers we talked about, the spend, well, that's in online video, but what the online video kind of preferred genre is going to be 3 years from now, 2 years from now, next year, I don't even necessarily know. We spend a lot of time researching what people are looking into, whether it's augmented reality on the mobile devices, whether it's, you know, partnering videos instead of the text. So there's a lot of flexibility required in building that partnership. So make sure that you've got that covered with your partner. And then very quickly, customer examples, some things I want to share. When you get all of these things put together and you've got a great partnership, you know, we've experienced some feedback that where, you know, we had a legal directory that we've done a lot of work for, and feedback we got, one piece of feedback we got from them is where consumers usually average about 5 websites before determining what attorney to use. When we started loading videos on their directory service, that went down to less than 2. So the number of websites that somebody's kind of going through to get information, when we had videos on those attorney websites, it cut it by over 50% in how before somebody made a decision, which is again important if you're a local attorney trying to get people to come into your shop. Along the same grounds, we also discovered that with professional services, lawyers in particular, that the no-show rate of a made appointment reduced by 50% whenever you had a video up. People felt more comfortable. They felt like they had a rapport with who they were meeting with instead of just having a picture on a website. So 2 areas where in professional services, videos increased the probability of getting work and decreased the probability of losing clients. So those are 2 that I wanted to share. Then the last one is actually getting back into using the major groups that we were talking about where the spend's going to be. That's in the professional services side. On the construction side, we actually had a contractor write in after we did a a business profile video on site with them about what they did is their video went live, and literally that afternoon they received a call and got a $150,000 construction job after somebody saw the video. So I know that's just a few. I understand I'm long on time here, Greg, so I'll stop with those few. More than happy to answer any questions around kind of what it means and what the success is, but I'll wrap it up with really making sure you have a strategy and good support for the sales staff is probably the most important two things in doing a video distribution.
As I said, there'll be much more of this at the Fast Forward Video Summit in mid-August. If you're interested, again, webinar will be available for replay at the lsa.org on webinars, or send an email to this address for more information or if you have questions. Thank you very much to all of you, and we look forward to doing more of these in the future.